How you doing, guys? Eric from RuleTheWasteland.com. You know, it's funny, I just did one of my most recent videos on the Zender power station, which I'm super stoked about. Really love it. I'm going to be making more videos on using it in the future and how you can, you know, be more prepared specifically with some sort of similar system. And it's just kind of a coincidence that at the same time that I'm making this, we're seeing a lot of issues crop up around the world, even in the United States, related specifically to power and energy. We already know Europe is in really bad shape when it comes to energy, and anyone over there who has the ability to get any kind of power generation, whether that's solar, whether that's propane, whether that's gas, whatever, that they should do so. But it's not just limited to Europe and Asia. We're seeing those issues over here too. Just in the past couple days, we've had an attack on power substations, which have knocked out power for tens of thousands of people. JJ Johnson, just in Reality Survival, just made a video about blackout info that could be coming to some states this winter, which they call load shedding, which is basically planned brownouts, where they shed the load of the system by turning off the power, basically. Texas in particular and some New England states. So there's never been a better time to go ahead and get something like that, which I'll put the link in the description, of course. But if it's not that, just something, you know, some solar, a generator. The gas generators are interesting because they're pretty much the cheapest and quickest way to get into power generation, but they're extremely noisy. They're not necessarily cheap to run because you got to store a lot of gas. You can't run them indoors, you know, and the noise to me is a big issue because in a disaster scenario, you hear someone kick on a generator and you're going to be turning some heads, especially when everything else is out. So it's not a bad idea to have it. It's better for things like hurricanes and stuff where you're not going to necessarily become a target when you have power. And it might be true, you know, in the situation of these like brownouts in Texas, you're probably going to be safe running it. But for other sorts of more serious disaster scenarios, you don't necessarily want to just be cranking on the gas engine all day and let people know that you have power. And also an issue with the gas generators is you still want to have some kind of storage because those generators, you know, they make a lot of power and you're probably not going to be using all of it. You know, if you fire up the generator to run your chest freezer or something, that's not that big of a draw. There's going to be a lot of power being generated that you're not using and is just wasted. So if you can get something like the Zender power bank, it stores power too. So even if you don't have the solar panels, you could charge that while you're running whatever else it is you need to. And, you know, at a time when it makes sense to run the generator, when it's not necessarily going to put you in a dangerous position, it's not in the middle of the night or whatever, and then you can use that power later and more slowly meet it out. So you'll be able to make your gas run longer. You'll put yourself in a better position from like a OPSEC or operational security perspective by being able to time when you make that noise. But to me, the best bet, if you're in a place where you have the weather for it, solar is just awesome because it's silent, it's everyday, renewable in that sense. So that's why I'm super stoked about it. But I definitely want you guys to get some sort of power. Propane, gasoline, solar, whatever. Because that's a big issue coming up all over the world. The fact that we're seeing it here in the US should tell you that, and certainly in Europe and Asia. So let me know what you guys have done for power generation. I've talked for a long time about how that was one of my weak areas, so that's why I'm so excited. And so you're probably going to get to hear about this power station for a lot. So apologize for that. I am super stoked about it because it was something that I wanted for a long time. And yeah, that's keep an eye out, check around, watch JJ's video. I'll put a link to that in the description as well so you can see if your area might be affected. I don't see a reason to redo the video. He did a great job. Just go check his out. But those are things that could happen even here, especially in areas where it's cold. You know, you want to have alternate means of heating. Now, the electric is not the best way to have heating. It takes a lot of electric energy to create any significant amount of heat. So a propane heater or firewood or kerosene or something like that is a lot better for heating specifically. But for everything else, you use electricity for those battery, you know, or power for rather. The electrical power banks and solar generators are a great option. And when it comes down to it, the initial price point may sting a little, you know, $1,800 to $2,400, depending on, you know, solar panels you get. But when you look at the power costs, those are certainly going up. And when you look at the cost of not having power in certain situations, it wouldn't take much of an event to make that totally worth it. I mean, if you have a hurricane or one of these rolling brownouts and you manage to save 1 or 2 fridge or freezer loads of stuff, that's paid for itself. Or you manage to have 1 or 2 things that you can do that actually make a difference in your life, whether that's, like I said, communication or saving food, or if you have something like a CPAP machine or anything like that that you need to run all the time, then it's $1,500 to $2,500 is like a no-brainer. Even though it might sting initially, that's just, like I said, it's a no-brainer. And if you're serious into prepping, having power in some way is obviously a no-brainer, and that's why I was lusting after it for so long. So not trying to make this into a 20-minute commercial, but I'm just trying to say why it's important to have some kind of power generation. And the sun is one example of that, and that's why I had the sun oven for so long, and that's one way to use solar power. But it's, to convert it into electricity, you need solar panels. And even to store electricity, whether it's generated by gas or wind, you can get these little wind generators, anything, depending on where you live, and this having some kind of battery bank to store can be extremely useful. So check that out. Check out JJ's video. Let me know what you guys think about power issues and if you're in an area that you think it'll be an issue. And thanks for watching. I'll talk to you soon.